Hi, this is Zach here with a weekend edition of the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe. It is Saturday, the 16th of August. Starting off with the FTSE, and here just a hint now that we're in a rising wedge, which is obviously a negative setup there. The top of the rising wedge heading for 93.30, which we're hoping for by the end of next month. And the current situation is that we found support on Friday at the uptrend line there of the wedge formation. So the low on Friday, 91.30 roughly, and the low of the month so far, 90.27. Risk of 90.30, 91.30 breaking, and are seeing a move down to the August support. Hopefully that's the worst we'll get. The reason for suggesting all this is that we have had bearish divergence, so higher highs, especially on Friday, and then coming down with the RSI. So at least unless we get an end of day close back above 9,200, fearing that there may have to be a test of support, at least on this side of 9,000 over the next week or two. Obviously, it depends on how the Ukraine situation is judged on Monday. On to the DAX, and here, slightly disappointing too. We managed to break through that July resistance line, 24,300, nestled on that basically at the end of the week. We have had an RSI 50 rebound, so above 24,300 rather, looking for the top of that rising trend channel there, 25,400 by the end of next month is the best case scenario, but it does look as though with the rather flabby price action we've had in the last couple of days, we might have to test that 50-day line, 24,000. Worst case is we're down to the 23,000 area, basically post-June support. The Dow is next, and here you can see that rather, well, not surprisingly, we're having difficulties clearing into new record territory above 45,000. The prize, if we can remain above or get above the 45,000 level, is the top of that May rising trend channel from last year, 47,500 by the end of next month. But given Friday's price action, probably one would not be surprised if there was one or two attempts at testing for support of that 50-day line, 43,900. Moving along to the cryptos, and starting off with Bitcoin, which during the week managed to temporarily get to new record highs. I believe the high there was around 124,500. We're back now in the previous range and also towards the floor of that rising trend channel from March. So 115 to 120, probably the range at the moment. RSI at 52 and trying to turn up. So that does actually suggest that we might have another go at the highs. If we can stay above the floor of the channel there from back in March and the 50-day line at 115, we could be looking at as high as 132 or even 133 by the end of next month. Proper end of day close through the 120 level, probably enough of a trigger now to get this market back on track if it can get back on track. Moving along to Ethereum, which had a good week in terms of being called up by JP Morgan and also called up by its founder, Joseph Lubin, who's argued that the market cap of Ethereum could actually overtake Bitcoin within the next 12 months. It's a bit of a punchy call, given that it's about $114,000 short, but you never know. In terms of the charting at the moment, we managed to hit, obviously, the initial price channel there, the March one, now up to 3,600. We managed to beat the second target there around 45.50. We're back below that now and would like to stay above the initial August resistance, 43.30, in order to then progress up to as high as 5,500, the upper parallel of that second line there. And that's very much a best case scenario target at 5,500 for the end of next month. Ideally, that is delivered on the basis that we stay above or stay on the right side of 4,000 over the next week or two, and then regroup and head up to 5,500 by the end of next month. On to gold, where the situation not quite as exciting, in fact, not really exciting at all. We're bumping along the bottom of that rising trend channel from April. The level there around 33.30. RSI's failed at neutral 50, so we're lucky that we haven't actually rolled over a bit, at least down towards the 32.70 area, or maybe even the June intraday low there, 32.23. But at least while we're near to the floor of that channel, and we actually are at the moment, then looking for a recovery and to move up to the rather sticky resistance line problem that we've had since April, which is that April resistance line at 34.30. That is at the moment hard resistance for this market, and at the moment looks as though it's going to be tough to beat rather, any time soon. Moving on to the stocks, and a few repeats. Not much happened on Friday, but there was some progress on the stocks that we look at. Very good close there. Weekly close for Audioboom through the old 412 pence May peak, and nothing really on the chart between here and 450. We're looking for the top of that rising trend channel from November to be hit at £5, hopefully by the end of next month at the latest, especially while we're on the right side of recent broken resistance just below the £4 level. Nice RSI, well, nice bounce for the RSI well above neutral 50 there. That should be a leading indicator on the upside, as is the way that both the 50 and 200 day lines are both rising now. That should suggest that we're in the run up to a golden cross, and that golden cross presumably could be delivered by the end of this month. And hopefully that will also ensure that this time, when the shares rally, there will not be the emergence of the pesky seller who's kept coming in again and again towards the £4.50 level on the daily chart. Upside valid while we're above the 390 area, but the trading stop loss probably for longer term holders, the rising 50-day line, £3.51. Decent stirring at the end of the week from Catenai, up 10%, and here you can see that the shares bouncing from just below a rising 200-day moving average, RSI back above neutral 50, and Friday's price action pretty strong, opening at the low, closing at the high. The initial resistance here around 0.3, but what we're really doing at the moment is the longer we stay above that rising 200-day line at 0.25, the greater the prospect of a move to the low 40s by the end of next month. Charting has worked well on critical mineral resources, and here, key reversal to the upside on Friday. We've hit or beaten our third target by quite some distance at 2.8 pence, and we've got a final target up our sleeve, which is heading for resistance on the way down around the 3.8 pence level. And we're looking at that by the end of this month at the current rate of progress. Ideally, we stay above the 3 pence zone, which basically was the support area on Friday. On to Gem Diamonds, which is not really a punting situation, but interesting setup here at the moment. We've got a broadening triangle base, and we had that sort of flushing out last month for the shares as well. Finding support at the 50-day line around 6.5 pence, and got this sort of what is hopefully a bull flag resting on that 50-day line. If we look closely, you can see that that's started to turn up. And we've had two RSI rebounds above neutral 50, so that should be enough of a leading indicator to get the shares up to as high as 10 pence. Maybe not by the end of this month, but not long after that, especially while we remain above that 50-day line on an end-of-day close basis. On to Hammock, which rose on Friday, I believe, with no new news. In fact, yes, there hasn't been any new news over the last 10 days or more. Current situation as we bounced well towards the 4 pence level. That's also the floor of the rising trend channel that's been in place since April. And looking for the shares to at least head back towards the recent resistance at 6 pence by the end of this month. RSI 50 rebound, that's the third one actually that we've had since June, and obviously the last two have been highly successful, so let's see if it's third time lucky for that situation. Moving on to Harena, which I think I covered one with the other 3 or 4 times on Friday, got rather enthusiastic for some reason. Current situation here is that we've had an unfilled gap to the upside, which foretold the break of 1.6 pence that we had on Friday. 3 RSI 50 rebounds, and support points, multiple support points above a rising 50-day line. So looks as though 2.2 pence and the 200-day moving average, a done deal, and hopefully it's a done deal by, or at least before, the end of this month. Afterwards, after that, after 2.2, not really anything on the chart until 3 pence, the initial opening price for the shares, which I suppose would be a nice target for the end of or by the end of next month. Ideally, there's now no end of day close on the wrong side of 1.5p. On to KR1, which after extensive research seemed to be an Ethereum play. I'm not quite sure how that works, but the fact that the shares have finally risen through recent resistance of 43p is helpful. Looking for the shares to get up to 70p by the end of next month, which is the top of a falling trend channel in place since September last year. The other reason for the relative enthusiasm is that we basically had an RSI rebound off that uptrend line from April as well, so looking healthy from that perspective, and helped along by the rising 50-day moving average. Maybe an early bird call for Mosman in the sense that shares haven't really moved and they haven't really broken out either, but 0.031 recent resistance, we closed on that. We've had at least double RSI rebounds above the neutral 50 level, so looking for at least the June peak there at 0.041 by the end of this month, if we are lucky, I suppose. On to Ondine, which I haven't looked at for a while, and here you can see the shares comprehensively broke the top of the rising trend channel again. That was the target area, around 15p. Above that, we're looking for 22p, which is the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base, and a summer 2023 resistance line projection. As I said, we're looking for that by the end of this month. Stock which is rather bigger than our normal pay grade is Oxford Biomedica. In fact, it is about 500 million pounds in terms of market cap, bigger than our normal the normal stocks that we look at. But here we've got a break of the initial August resistance area at 470. Of that, we're looking for 650, perhaps as soon as the end of next month. Beautiful turnaround there, and basically RSI 50 rebounds there since the beginning of July. Finishing off with WeCap, where one presumes that with a gap through resistance, the shares are certainly on the front foot, or can be classed as being on the front foot, and that maybe some news will be forthcoming relatively soon. Company making news, perhaps. 2.75p, the top of that channel there, or rather the resistance line projection, the top of the upper parallel of the 2024 resistance line. So above the 1.8p area, looking for 2.8p by the end of next month or even sooner. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.